Hi guys, and welcome to the Reprogram Your Mind podcast, episode 10. Can't believe we're at episode 10 already. So grateful for all the support that we've had on the podcast. I really hope it's impacting you. My life's mission statement is very, very simple. I wrote this down a few years ago, that through my business, I hope to impact as many people as I can globally before I leave this earth to live healthier, happier, wealthier lives. So knowing that it's in some part that's happened through this podcast is making me really, really happy. So I hugely appreciate the support. You know, the podcast is free, so feel free to share episodes with any friends or family or might need a help, or if you can help us, spread the word through social media. Hopefully we can impact more people for global positivity, mindset and mental health. So today's episode is going to be a bit different. This isn't about a strategy. This isn't about a framework. This isn't about this is how you do this in many days. This is quite personal. It's quite raw, and it's without a doubt the most vulnerable I'm ever going to have been on camera. So you might have to bear with me at points. So the reason why I want to share this is not to pull anyone down, not to fire shots at anyone from the past or any of that kind of negativity. It's because if I'd have known what I know now 30 to 40 years ago, I could have saved myself all of the pain in the world. So I want to go through this pain now to share that with you guys in the hope that if just one person watches this and has the same realization now before any of that happens, then that would make me a truly happy man. So I'm going to talk about self-love, and I'm not talking about the Instagram quote kind of, sitting in a bubble bath with a candle and reading a book before moisturizing your whole body. That's not what I mean. I mean kind of real self-love, and by self-love I mean self-love that makes you realize that you're enough exactly as you are, even if you don't feel like you are, because the reality is that you are love and you were born enough and you're absolutely perfect as you are. But most of all, not just that you are love, but I want you to know that you're worthy of love. Whether you believe that or not right now, by the end of this podcast, I believe you will. So I didn't know a lot of this for most of my life, but my mum died of Crohn's disease when I was 6 months old. She was very ill during the pregnancy, and she never made it home from the hospital, or just on one occasion, I do believe, from what I was told. So that left a wound that I couldn't see. Like, I didn't even know things like this existed until I looked into why was it that I struggled to fall asleep without the TV on. Well, it's actually often related to abandonment issues. So if you've been abandoned at times in your life, you like to feel like there's someone there with you when you're falling asleep, even if that's a TV. So this abandonment and this rejection and this feeling of not being enough, like, I didn't even know it existed until I was well into my 20s or 30s. And old enough to even begin to understand what was happening. And it wasn't until I went through the deep therapy work to actually understand it that I, one, realized it was happening, two, realized why it was happening, and three, realized that it wasn't about me, which is what I want to hopefully take you guys through. So when mum died, I lived with my grandparents, and I wasn't with my dad that much for the first 5 years, but I was loved, I was safe, I was protected, and generally up until the age of 5 years old, despite the trauma of losing my mum, which I wouldn't have understood as a child when I was 6 months old, as I said, I was safe, I was loved, and I was happy. But one phone call then changed everything. And that phone call was from my dad to my grandparents when I was 5 years old on a Sunday night when I'd been to visit, and they said that they weren't bringing me back, which was against my mum's dying wishes. So they'd strictly gone against what she said. in a room in front of my grandparents and my godfather, Dr. Borland, who was the junior doctor who looked after mum, that they wanted me to grow up with my nan and granddad. So without going too deep, there was a resulting court case. The outcome of that court case was that I had to go and live with my dad and my stepmum, and I went to visit my grandparents at the weekend. So, as I said, without going too deep, nothing in that house was love. It was rejection. It was exclusion. They went on to have a son who was referred to as their son, where I was often referred to as his son. Their son, who was younger than me, went to bed later than me and had a privileged life within the house, whereas I was told no to everything and was constantly excused, abused physically and emotionally, manipulated, coerced, and pretty much told in every way possible, directly or indirectly, that I wasn't enough, that I was worthless. So it made me feel like I wasn't wanted. It made me feel worthless. It made me feel rotten. It made me feel that there must be something wrong with me. Like, why would my own dad be like this? Why wasn't he standing up for me? Why would she be doing these things to me? What have I done wrong? What have I done to deserve this? That's very fucking hard to process as a child. So if you've been through anything similar, and you ever want to reach out, I want you to know that, I understand and I'm here for you. But again, it was a battle. It was tough, but it wasn't at the forefront of my memory. And they then separated and I went back to live with my grandparents when I was 12 years old. When I was given the opportunity at that point, which again, looking back now, made me feel completely worthless, although I felt ecstatic at the time. So I can remember to the day my dad saying, me and your stepmom are separating. Do you want to come and live with me, or do you want to live with your grandparents? Now, really, in my eyes, to any self-respecting father, that shouldn't have been a question. Why would you not want your son? Again, worthless, not enough. But the upside of that, and I can be really honest about this, fuck me, I might as well have been Usain Bolt out of that house saying I want to go and live with my grandparents, because that was a house of happiness. That was a house of love, a house of safety, and everything in between. So I left very, very quickly, shall we say. But again, it wasn't until later on in life when I thought back to that decision, and I even tried to quantify it myself. Like, did he offer me that question because he knew that I was better off with my grandparents? Probably, in one sense, but also probably because it was less hassle not to have me. I'm being completely honest there. That's my beliefs. But fast forward to my teens and my 20s, still nearly 20 years before I even knew that I had ADHD. But looking back now, I was the purest ADHD ever. Everything was about dopamine. Rugby was about dopamine. Obsessed with trying to tackle the biggest player on the pitch, even though I was the smallest. Obsessed with scoring tries. Everything that I did, I became obsessed with it. I would watch The Karate Kid and Best of the Best. Who remembers those? And I became obsessed with, fighting and martial arts. Then I'd watch programs like Baywatch and Gladiators, and then I became obsessed with, I wanted the best body, I wanted to be the strongest, I wanted to be the biggest. Then came bodybuilding, then came DJing, then came club promoting, then came running multi-million pound businesses. Everything was about being the best and having that dopamine. And at this point, I still just thought, this is me, it's just the way I am. I'm driven, I'm focused, I'm smashing the shit out of life. Even fishing, like Camel Afla, I always wanted to catch the biggest fucking carp so I could get the photo to put it on Instagram, not just because I was caught the biggest carp, but for everyone to see what a great fisherman I was. And it then moved into more materialistic things. So, it moved into buying the 5-bedroom house with the 3 acres of land. It moved into the Range Rover. It moved into waxing €12,000 to get a villa in Ibiza for 10 days when we took one of the events over there. The Instagram followers, the the ultra marathons, everything was about dopamine, about success, about proving that I was good enough. For someone just to say to me, you're good enough, Lee, you're worthy of love. And at this time, I still hadn't related that back to those early childhood years. And I just didn't know why it was showing up so heavily. And I'm going to go through now kind of what happened and how it made me change and the lessons that I learned. And I hope that you can take some things away from this. And it maybe stops you going through some of the pain that I went through. So from the outside, all of those things, I had the body, I had the house, I had the car, I had the businesses. Like, I was smashing it. And the fakest, happiest person that you've ever seen on this earth. Until I realized that I wasn't even chasing success. I was empty, I was lonely, I was crying myself to sleep some nights, sometimes still falling back into bad habits to take the pain away. And essentially, you know, I wasn't really chasing success. I was running away from pain. It was all a big mask for my insecurities that I didn't even realize were there. So where the kind of real light bulb moments came from was, one, realizing that, yeah, it was ADHD, because all of those things made me feel good. Like, every single one of those achievements made me feel good. I'm not going to say that they didn't, but when they were taken away, there was nothing left. So you're then left in a situation, well, I can't run a 100-mile ultra every week. I can't, you know, score tries every week. I'm getting older now. I can't play rugby. I can't DJ on a big stage every week. I can't do all of these things. So when I wasn't doing those minuscule things that were getting me the love, the validation, and the significance that I truly craved to feel like I was enough, I was completely empty. But again, I thought it was just ADHD after the diagnosis. So it's just this impulsivity. It's just the dopamine. And then I had the realizations that it was actually all related to the 6-year-old Lee, the 7-year-old Lee, who never felt like he was enough. So a story for you guys to realize, and I think this was the moment when it truly, truly hit home. So I did my first 100-mile ultra marathon, 23 hours of solid running. I ran a 6-minute mile in the last mile of it. Whether it was pure adrenaline or just happy for it to be over, I don't know. But I did it, no sleep, pure pain, crossed the finish line, TV cameras there. I was on all the TV news, local news. Was in the newspapers, clients were there, friends and families were there, videos on my Instagram, unbelievable. Jason was there. I did it for Lacey and John, his children. Like, the best moment ever. And then I literally 24 hours later, after actually having to shoehorn myself out of the car at the other end because I couldn't move my legs, back at my big 5-bedroom detached house with the land and my Range Rover and myself. That was it. In bed, on my own, lonely, no more messages, no cameras, no noise, no hugs, no significance, no validation, just me. And I remember just sat there and thinking, I've done that. I've nearly broke myself. But unless I can do that every day, I'm always going to feel this way. I'm never ever going to be happy. And yet I was still empty. I was still alone. I still didn't feel like I was enough. And that was when suicidal thoughts came back. I was just like, I don't want to be here, because I either find a way to have that every day, or I'm always going to end up feeling like this. And that's impossible. Anyone with ADHD knows this. You'll just burn out. You will burn out and collapse. There was one day when I didn't show up for a DJ gig and I spent 3 days sat in a room. I can't even remember it. I was that burned out. I was that exhausted. But, you know, I sat down afterwards and had some time to think about it. And I was like, I'm not even running. I'm like, am I running for this validation, or or who am I trying to prove it to, was the moment really. I'm like, there's actually no one here anymore that I need to prove anything to. Yeah, it's great thinking that, you know, mum was looking down with pride, and my nan and my granddad, and making, you know, Logan and Nat proud, and all of those things. But the reality was, it wasn't so much kind of making them proud as trying to prove something to people that didn't exist, trying to prove that I was good enough, trying to prove that I was worthy of love through punishing myself, through causing myself as much pain as possible, to make me feel that way. And it was just crazy, and it couldn't continue. So there were points when I was thinking, like, how much pain can I actually put myself through? And that's actually a form of self-hate and self-loathing, but convincing yourself that you're doing it for a good reason. So the lesson here that we're going to go through is kind of the self-love foundation, really. And I guess how I changed from being that person, because I couldn't have carried on being that person, because you just simply can't. It's a one-way road to nowhere. Like, you know, it's like when people get desensitized to things, right? Like the cars, the houses, the validation, the TV, it just becomes, and then you're craving more. Like, I need something extra now. Like, that's why I went from 50 miles to 100 miles to 200 miles. Like, how far do you actually have to run, Lee, before it's going to be okay? How much like money do you have to make? How many followers do you need? How many cars do you need? How many houses do you need just to still feel fucking empty? So what I realized was, and this is going to be quite deep, some of this, but I hope you take some good things away from it. You know, nothing external will ever fix the internal wounds. Like, you've got to do the deep work, but you've also got to realize that it was never about you. So money's not going to fix the pain. Cars aren't going to fix the pain. Medals aren't going to fix the pain. You know, even sometimes another person loving you isn't going to fix the pain, because then you're reliant on their love to feel okay. That's not fair on them, and that's not fair on you, because you need to be responsible for your own happiness and your own love before someone else can truly love you. So, you know, I honestly believe this, like, no one will ever be able to love you over and above your ability to love yourself. So if you've constantly struggled in relationships, that's probably the why. Because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to allow someone else to love you. If you don't value yourself, no one else is going to value. Like, again, I've heard people say, oh, well, she just doesn't value me. Well, you don't value yourself, brother. So how can you expect her to? And I've seen that time and time again, and that was me. Like, we want people to value us, but we don't value ourselves. We want people to love us, but we don't love ourselves. It's the wrong way around. You know, no one will believe in you until you can believe in yourself. But before we go back to this inner child work, like I want you to know you were born perfect. Like, you were born a miracle. It's never been about you. It's like situations and circumstances may have led you to believe otherwise, but it's never been about you. You're perfect. You're enough. You're worthy of love, exactly as you are. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to run anywhere. You don't need to buy anything. You just need to be you. And that was the realization that changed my life. So you were born that way the day you took your first breath. It's only situations and circumstances that changed. So how do we build self-love? How can I give you guys some steps or actionable points that will help you move forward from this? So how do you go from hating yourself to loving yourself? How do you go from feeling that you're not enough to understanding that you are enough? So for me, it started with going back to that 6-year-old boy. And it's kind of something you never imagined doing. Like, what am I doing here? I'm 40 years, 39, 40 years old at the time. Going back to that kid, and telling him that he's enough, that it wasn't his fault, that that it was never about him, and that any individual that would have been in that situation, the same thing would have happened, because it was about the actions of the other people, not you. And it was about going back to him and talking to him and telling him he's enough, telling him he doesn't need to be afraid, telling him that he's strong, telling him that it wasn't his fault, telling him to stand up for himself, and then what he does, he can move forwards, and telling him to forgive, because it was never about him. And forgiving even the most horrific of abuse is the only thing that will free you of the memory of the pain. So whatever you're holding on to, let go. Forgive them. No matter how abusive it was, how terrible it was. It might be a relationship, it might be a parent situation. Forgive them with a heart that was full. Doesn't mean you're condoning their behaviour, just means you're not willing to give your energy to it. But be your own best friend. Like, you don't need anyone else. And when I went back to that boy and spoke to him and told him that he was enough, I also told him that he just needed to be himself. He didn't need to buy any cars. He didn't need to buy any houses. He didn't need to run any marathons. He didn't need to plan the 300-mile run, because he was enough exactly as he was. And situations and circumstances had led him to believe otherwise, but they weren't true, because it never was about him. And all the things that he or you are searching for in life, the love, the validation, the feeling of being enough, the feeling of being accepted, you can get just by being yourself. That's all he needed to be. And when you can truly be yourself, this is the most vulnerable I've ever been on camera, and just be who you are without apology, not try and be who you think you need to be to get love, which was what I've done my whole life, then the right people in your life will show up, and the other people don't matter. But if you continue to do things to get love, to be accepted, to feel worthy, to get validation, you're just chasing ghosts. And the worst thing is, I firmly believe you'll actually attract the wrong people. Because if you think about this situation, like how many, like you see this throughout the world in relationships, like, what do they call, like trophy girlfriends or trophy boyfriends. You sometimes think, this is definitely a man thing as well, if I get the car, if I get the watch, if I get the body, if I get the house, then maybe like somebody will love me because of the things that I have, because of my status. Well, that would attract the worst partner in the world. Imagine someone only being with you because you're successful, because you have abs, because you have a big house, because you have a big car. Like, the right person would be with you if you lived in a cardboard box and wore a bin bag. And that's the big lesson that I want you to take away and that I had to learn is, when you can really go back to that child, tell them that they're strong, tell them they're enough, tell them that they don't need anyone, and that all they need to be is their self. Because what happens is, because a period of abuse happens, you stop being yourself because you think yourself is not good enough. So you try to be someone else to mask your insecurities, because you've convinced yourself that no one would ever love you because you're not good enough, because if you were, those things wouldn't have happened. So you need to let go of that, because you were. And the only reason you feel that way is because of the meaning that you gave to it, because You made it about you. One, that's not your fault. And two, it's not true. So tell that young boy that you're proud of him, that young girl. Tell her that she's enough and that she was born enough and that she doesn't need anyone. She doesn't need to do anything to get love. She just needs to be herself. He just needs to be himself. And when he does, or she does, the right people will fall into your life and you'll attract the right people. And the other people, they don't matter. So we can start to do this by practicing gratitude and compassion. So this might sound a little bit crazy. It's actually happened in that period when I was training for the 100-mile run, and I was living on my own, and my coach was a guy called Marcus Smith. He's an absolute legend. Check him out. He's the guy from Dubai. He ran 30 marathons in 30 days. Absolute legend of a guy. At Leeds together and played rugby. And he was coaching me, and I remember these words to the day. We were at the weekend. It was coming towards the 100-mile run, and he said to me, I'm not going to try and do his York cross Dubai cross South Africa accent, but he said to me, mate, listen, have a great day. I hope you've got your son, and if not, you've always got yourself. And I've always remembered that, and I want every single one of you to know that. That's the only thing you can really rely on. You've always fucking got yourself. So tell that person, tell yourself that you're enough. Speak to yourself with gratitude and compassion. Speak to yourself like someone you love. How the fuck can you expect someone to love you when you don't love yourself? And like I said, it's not about bubble baths and books and candles. Self-love is about realizing that you're absolutely perfect as you are. Because as I've said, this goes round a bit, doesn't it, in life? But fucking hell, he loves himself. Well, what's the opposite? The opposite to loving yourself is hating yourself. So you can only do one of those two things. So, replace that voice of criticism with the voice of kindness. Be kind to yourself, but also detach yourself from achievements, because those people telling you you look great and you are great and you did great and you scored great and you made great and you whatever, as long as your worth is attached to those achievements, it can be taken away from you in a second. And that's exactly what happened with those runs. All my self-worth, all my self-love, all my validation was attached to money, things, being on TV, my abs, how many girls liked my Instagram pictures, how many people told me I was looking great, how many people told me I was looking great, and X, Y, and Z. So you can't control that stuff. So you need to understand that you are not your job. You are not your car. You are not your bank balance. You're not your body fat percentage. As long as you go through life, if you go through life attaching your net worth to your self-worth or your self-worth to your net worth, you're always going to be miserable, because that can be taken away at any time. But like Marcus said to me, I don't know why I always make me sound emotional when I say this, but I hope you've got your son, and if not, you've always got yourself. Well, whether you're that 6-year-old boy or whether you're the 44-year-old man, that's the only thing you can truly rely on. That might sound cold, and I'm not talking about not letting people in or, putting up barriers or any of that stuff, because I don't believe in that either. Because if you don't you need to let people in and love you. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's their fault, not yours. Don't ever go into that zone where you're like, well, I've been hurt, so I'm never going to let anyone in or love them. Be willing to get hurt 1,000,000 times to find the right person. Be willing to get burned 1,000,000 times. Because if you don't, then you'll never find out. And like I said, it's never about you. It's about them. The only way it can be about you is if you make it about you. So, You know, you've always got yourself. So if that's the key thing that you focus on, then nothing can ever go wrong, because no one can ever take you away from you. And guess what? That boy survived all of that. He went through that. He just had to have these few lessons a bit later on in life to realise that he wasn't that 6-year-old boy anymore. And that 6-year-old boy needed to stop showing up because he was now a 44-year-old man. So, as I said, you're not your job, you're not your car, you're not your bank balance, you're not how good looking your partner is, you're not your watch, you're not your body fat percentage, you're not your booty, right? You are you. And in whatever sense you are you, when you can truly be you, you're perfect and you'll attract the right person. Keep trying to be someone else and you're going to keep attracting the wrong person. So you can do this by daily affirmations. Like, it sounds really weird, this. Hopefully I can make this a bit more fun now. I've caught my breath. Sorry about that. So daily affirmations. So you've heard daily affirmations talked about time and time again. But I remember when I was working with Nikki and she said to me, Lee, I need you to go to the love gym. I'm like, right. She went, I want you to go to the love gym every morning and I want you to flex your love muscle. Now that might sound very, very wrong for someone who's got a bit of a sexual mind like me. But she said, I want you to stand in front of the mirror and I want you to tell yourself how much you love yourself, how worthy you are, how amazing you are, how perfect you are, how strong you are, how you're a fucking survivor, not a victim, how no one can touch Lee Freeman because Lee Freeman's always got Lee Freeman. And that 6-year-old boy never needs to be afraid anymore because Lee Freeman's got his back. And it sounds cheesy, it sounds cliched, but you have to do it time and time and time again. If you've told yourself for the last 20 years that you're not good enough and you're not worthy of love, like, you're not going to listen to this podcast, get inspired and do that for 2 days and changes all those opinions. You have to do it over and over and over and over again. So every morning, I am enough. I am worthy. I am worthy of love. I am love. And just keep saying it over and over and over again until you believe it. But also realize how strong you are. And if you've always got your own back, no one can ever touch you. But if you keep relying on other people to have your back, you know, people say, so, well, I'd never treat anyone like that. Well, great. Stop expecting other people from you. They're not you. Everyone's just doing their best. Do you know what I say about my dad now at that time? He was just doing his best. He was just doing his best with the emotional tools that he had available to him up until that point in life. Same as my stepmom. She was just doing her best. Doesn't make it right. I'm just not going to give any energy to it. I've forgiven it. It's gone. Wish them nothing but love and happiness. Genuinely. Doesn't make it okay, but I'm not going to give my energy to that. I can give my energy to Logan. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about you. But if you put your happiness in the hands of another person, you're always going to be weak. Your happiness isn't their responsibility. It's yours. And I don't need anyone, because Lee Freeman has always got Lee Freeman. Nobody can ever take that away from me. Not my strength, not what I've been through, not the adversity, not the challenge. And I know I'm enough now because I've said it 1,000 fucking times. I know that I'm worthy of love. That doesn't mean that I have to be in a loving relationship in order to be okay. I just know that I'm worthy. So you have to say it until you believe it, but you also need to set boundaries. So you need to say no and get the fuck away from anyone who questions your worth, or worse, makes you question your worth. Cut them out like a fucking cancerous cyst. Put a fucking bullet through their skull, figuratively speaking. Don't go out and kill anyone. But do not be around anyone that makes you question your worth, because you're fucking good enough. You're a fucking miracle. You were fucking born enough, and you're worthy of love. Anyone who convinces you otherwise is a cunt. End of story. Case closed. Set boundaries. Get away from them. Why would you want to be around someone who makes you feel like you're not enough? So audit your environment. Surround yourself with people who see your value. Surround yourself with people who make you feel loved. Surround yourself with people who make you feel worthy. But don't rely on it to be okay. That's a bonus. Does that make sense? That's the fucking cherry on the cake. It's fucking great for me to be around people that make me feel loved, worthy, and like I'm enough. But I'm not reliant on them to feel that way, because that way I'm placing my happiness in their hands. That's not fair on them, and that's not fair on me, because my happiness is my responsibility. And do the work. Like, you have this podcast here. Fucking anyone, if you're struggling, inbox me at any time. I'll always get back to you, even if it's, you can't afford coaching. I've got 300 plus hours of free content. I can direct you to the right one. But do the work. Audit your environment. Create boundaries. Do the therapy. Do the journaling. Do the meditation. Do the affirmations. It's a great podcast on here, Reprogram Your Mind in 3 days, episode 3. There's another one on YouTube, Reprogram It in 7 days. And it's not quick, and it's not easy, but it's worth it. But reprogram your mind and your subconscious to realize that you're fucking unstoppable. You have 100% fucking knockout record. You're watching this video. You wouldn't be here if not. You've fucking beaten every single one of your toughest days so far. Do you know why? Because you're fucking strong. Because you're enough, and you've always got your own back. So if nobody's told you this lately, I want you to know, from me to you, from my heart to yours, that you're enough, that you're lovable, and that you're worthy of love. So from this day onwards, you can stop running from that pain. Stop running away from other people. Stop trying to prove things to ghosts. Stop trying to do anything to get love. Love is love. Love is unconditional. Love can't have conditions. You can't live in a place where I'll love you if X. I'll love you if you earn this amount of money. I'll love you if you do this for me. Love is love. It cannot have conditions. So stop running from pain. Stop trying to prove yourself, and just start being yourself, and start running towards yourself. Because the miracle has already happened. The miracle was you being born, and you were born enough. Guys, I hope this episode hit home. Sorry for getting a bit emotional. Hope it was raw. Hope it was vulnerable. And I hope you can learn from listening to this and take something away that impacts your life and makes you feel happy. Because as I said, that's my mission in life. My mission, my purpose, my meaning is, through this podcast and through my coaching, to be able to impact people on a global level, like I've been lucky enough to be impacted by my mentors. So I massively want to thank Kieran O'Neill, and I massively want to thank Nikki V for what I've spoken about on this podcast. And to put it into perspective, so I've got a voice recording from Kieran, and we really went through everything that I've spoken about on this, where a lot of it, and in the voice recording it says, going back to that 4-year-old boy and telling him that he's enough, telling him that he's strong, telling him to stand up for himself, telling him that he doesn't need to do anything to get love, and that when he was excluded from his dad's family, that wasn't about him. And that voice recording, when it then moves forward to all Lee Freeman needs to do is be Lee Freeman. And when Lee Freeman can truly be Lee Freeman, he'll attract everything that he wants in his life, and he'll attract all the right people, and the other people, they don't matter. And that recording, I think I listened to it falling to sleep, and as soon as I got up, for well over 2 years. And I still listen to it now when I'm struggling. So that's just to give you guys a little bit of an insight into how deep the work has to go sometimes to untrain a subconscious mind and reprogram a new subconscious. So you really do wake up and believe you're enough as soon as you get up. Guys, I love you all.